Good afternoon, it's 12 o'clock, and good you're here. I'm very happy that I'm here in person finally. My name is Kees van der Spek. I'm coming from the Netherlands, from the company Edge, and I'd like to give you a slight insight of the way that we do our transition in the built environment. How are we going to use energy, and what do we need with energy in our fields of office development, sustainable office development, and healthy office development. We are a company which is also a digital company because we have a platform to, let's say, understand all those digital, let's say, way of steering a building. Just a little bit of an idea what we are doing. These are the projects that we are doing around the globe. We don't call them, let's say, a building anymore. We call them an edge building, and we make a building as a product. One of the buildings that we are currently doing in Berlin, and where we have, let's say, a way of thinking about energy in a different way in a city environment is the East Side Tower. It's around the corner at the Mercedes-Benz Arena. That will be the headquarters for Amazon. And these kind of buildings in the city should be, let's say, going to carbon net. That's our aim for the coming years. Some other things we do in more the residential part is to add green to buildings. This is a valley in Amsterdam, which we currently develop and deliver in September. So you have a little bit of an idea of what field we are working in. What we currently delivered and where energy is a big thing is one of the most sustainable banks in the world. It's the Triodos Bank. This is in a city near Amsterdam, where we made a building which is energy positive and made full of wood. So this building is made full of wood, and we generate the energy on the landscape, on the building itself, and store cold and heat in the ground to make the building extremely energy efficient. They're working here about 1,000 people, and there is another thing that is very important here, is that we think about the health of people, especially with the COVID. We want to go back to the office, we want to go back secure to the office, and that's being done at the Triodos Bank. One of the buildings we became famous about and why we have changed our name into Edge, we are on an edge these days, the world is changing a lot, is the most sustainable office building of 5 years ago, which was fully energy positive because we generate all the energy with the building itself and with the universities and the roofs of the universities around this building. It's the headquarters of Deloitte, which we made and which we changed, where we work with an atrium. The atrium was not even conditioned. We could play with the air that came out of the office, and we brought back outside and get air in. We are in a great reset today, and the world is changing. We have to go to a different way of energy. Unfortunately, we get a few supporters these days. Biden is in Europe, and he's also, finally, the US is saying something about energy, about sustainability, and that we have a goal for ourselves, but especially also for our kids. And Mr. Timmermans, my co-fellow from the Netherlands, who has the Green Deal. And the Green Deal is a big, big thing for the built environment. We have to go to a, let's say, 2050 zero net environment. And I think with the built environment, we can do something about it. So we believe that the solution of that is under your roof. We are ourselves in a building in Amsterdam, which we made energy positive ourselves, but also which we circular redeveloped. And the big thing today is redevelopment of office spaces. And here you see we use a lot of wood. It's carbon low use, and we brought also atrium and light, so you don't need light anymore during the day. Stairs, no elevators anymore, they are hidden somewhere, so people also use the building in a different way. We changed also due to COVID our interior, no plastic screens or whatever, but art stuff to also inspire people, because the people are the ones who really use those buildings. So we thought in the COVID time, we have to do something with sustainability and energy. Why don't we create a platform so we can steer our buildings in a better way? So when you enter the building, you know exactly what's going on. And we also know exactly what's going on energy level, on CO2 level, on even VOCs level in the building. So that everybody is working in a sustainable, but also in a healthy environment. Sustainable is also a well-being thing. We do that on well-being, sustainable, but also on asset level. And here you see some ideas. We saw, for instance, in our own building that even in the weekends we use energy. And what happened if somebody, and in Amsterdam we bike a lot, passed by with his bike, the lights went on. Because there is a kind of small connector that shoots the light on. And just by changing that small button, we dropped our energy by 16% in a few months. Technology is going to lead sustainability and your energy efficiency. So what we currently do with this platform is that we can see exactly how much CO2 and how much energy and how we can monitor and analyze this building in the right way. So we can even see if we are Paris-proof, yes or no, with buildings. We start with this platform, and we currently do that all over the globe. This is in New Delhi, for instance, where you have a lot of CO2 in the air and dirt and bad air. And if you change the quality in your office by only changing a filter and seeing that by monitoring a building, you see that from big red you go to green. So that's also much better for the environment, but even much better for the people who work in these buildings. So you can do that on all kinds of asset levels. We currently work with Allianz, for instance, German company, to steer their buildings and to see how we can do so. In productivity and well-being, you can do the same, and you can do that on all kinds of levels in buildings. So currently what we are doing, you see here some German, some American, and some other partners who all steer their buildings now in that way. So we believe you have to go green, and you have to go for redevelopment. And the redevelopment wave is coming out of the European Union and the European Commission to change all those buildings. And what you see here is that a very old building in Amsterdam we completely circular demolish and reuse again to make it a really Paris-proof building. This is still a visual, but in September we were ready with that. The same with a big bank. All those big banks have those big, let's say, campus offices. You can also change these ones to even better than Paris-proof. Paris-proof means that you use 50 kilowatt hours per square meter over a year. But we can go lower than that if we use our way to steer and to monitor and to make those buildings more efficient. So we believe that you can go beyond Paris-proof to go much further if you think smart, but not in a very cost-effective way. You can easily change all those buildings by just following the normal steps and do it together with your, let's say, big corporate clients. And that's currently what you see, Amazon, but also this bank, ABN AMRO, but also a lot of big companies, they want to go carbon net in 2025, 2030, 2040. And I think that's the goal with all the buildings in the world we have. And we give an answer to that, to just redevelop those buildings, transform them, and bring them back to the fact that sustainability will be the key for everything we do in the built environment. That's what I wanted to stop with that. I've even 2 minutes over, so if you have questions, please come to us later when we are in the panel. Thank you very much.
Hi, welcome everybody. So my name is Nikola Kim. I'm Head of Sustainability at Signify, Chief Strategy and Sustainability Officer. And it was great listening to Kees's presentation because in fact we are moving into the Amsterdam Edge West building in a few months. So really great to see all the developments at Edge. Just a few words about Signify. So we started off 130 years ago as Philips. And 4 years ago, we went through an IPO to become a separately stock-listed company. We are the world's largest lighting company with 3/4 of our business in B2B and 1/4 in B2C. So next slide. There we go. Sustainability is really at the heart of our purpose. So when we went through the IPO 4 years ago, we seized the opportunity to put sustainability at the heart of the purpose. So that is to unlock the extraordinary potential of light for brighter lives and a better world. So brighter lives refers to the social part of sustainability, better world to the environmental part. And it's based on the megatrends, which influence the lighting industry, which are climate change and resource scarcity on the environmental side, demographic change, and urbanization on the social side. We've oriented our program to the SDGs, using the SDGs as our strategic compass. We're just finalizing our 6th 5-year program. So we just finished that in 2020, successfully overachieving on all our commitments. So the first commitment was to become carbon neutral with 100% renewable electricity, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. We've delivered almost 3 billion LED, more than any other lighting company in the world. We've lit the lives of 6 million people around the world. So those are people with no access to electricity. We have a very strong supplier sustainability program with 99% of risk suppliers meeting our requirements. We've sent zero waste to landfill, and we've reduced injuries by 67% over the last 5 years. Also, our achievements have been recognized externally in ratings like CDP and in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. We've achieved the #1 position in our industry for 3 of the 4 years since our IPO. So next slide, please. There we go. A little bit about our carbon neutrality. So over the last 10 years, we've reduced our carbon footprint by about 70%. And so when we say carbon neutral, that's scopes 1, 2, and parts of scope 3. So it's all manufacturing sites, all offices, and our logistics and business travel. So in logistics, we've shifted to sea freight. We've reduced our business travel. We've made our offices and manufacturing more efficient by shifting to different technologies. Also, we've invested in power purchase agreements. So we have power purchase agreements in Texas, in Poland, and through a consortium in Scandinavia with the Dutch consortium. And for the remaining carbon footprint, that 30%, we invest in offsets which have both social and environmental positive impact. So we've invested in things like reforestation in Colombia or solar energy in India. And actually, our employees help us to select these projects. The next slide, please. So sustainability is really integrated in our company strategy. We have growth for sustainability as one of the pillars of our company strategy. So, and the pillars of this growth for sustainability strategy are very closely linked to the SDGs. So these are around climate action and circular economy when it comes to the environmental impact. When it comes to social impact, it's about food, safety and security, health and well-being, and creating a great place. Next slide, please. So we've had a very successful 5-year program. We want to build on that program. And what we've done is we've made doubling commitments for the next 5 years. So we want to double our positive impact on the environment and society. So on the environmental side, we want to double the pace of the Paris Agreement, and that's the 1.5 degree pathway. We will double our revenues of circular revenues, so products, systems, and services which have a circular contribution from 16 to 32%. We will double our revenues for brighter lives, and that's related to food, safety and security, or health and well-being, and we'll double our percentage of women in leadership. At the same time, we will maintain and strengthen our ongoing programs. We will remain carbon neutral. We will remain zero waste to landfill. We will still continue our ambitious program on safety, on lighting lives, and on supplier sustainability. Next slide, please. So a little bit about our climate action commitment. So if we look at the 1.5 degree pathway of the Paris Agreement, we see that a big portion for the lighting industry is in fact the use phase. In the lighting industry, 98% of our carbon footprint is the use phase. So we've now gone carbon neutral for, as I said, scopes 1, 2, and parts of scope 3. And if we look at our full scope 3 impact, including the use phase of our products, our commitment is now to double the pace of what Paris asks of us for the 1.5 degree scenario. So our commitment covers the entire value chain, including the use phase. What does that mean? That means developing the most energy efficient products, shifting to solar lighting, So a lot of efforts around the use phase of lighting products. On circular economy, this means designing products in a different way. So making them modular for disassembly, for upgradability. It means also selling light as a service and not only lighting products. So it is also having systems which look at the monitoring of maintenance and increasing the lifetime and the value of products. Next slide, please. On the positive impact on society, we've seen that lighting can increase food availability. So it increases the yield and the quality of food in horticulture, in aquaculture, as well as in animal lighting, and safety and security. We can reduce accidents and crime in cities through smart lighting. Li-Fi is a secure alternative to Wi-Fi. On health and well-being, it's all about human-centric lighting, which emulates the circadian rhythm of people to help them feel and function better. On increasing diversity, we see that we already have a very good diversity in terms of generations and nationalities, but women in leadership has been stagnant over the last 3 years. So now we're going to really invest in our talent pipeline to ensure that we increase diversity from a gender perspective. So just to finalize, our next 5-year program is all about doubling our positive impact on environment and society. It means doubling the pace of the Paris Agreement over our value chain, doubling our circular revenues, doubling our revenues which benefit society, and doubling our women in leadership. Now I'd like to hand over back to Felix.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jens Müller-Behlau. I'm the Energy Transition Manager for Shell in Germany, so the Managing Director who looks after energy transition topics across a wide range of activities that we have specifically in Germany, so that's my accountability, but overall connected to all the activities we as Shell run across the globe, to really transform the energy system and transform our own company into a new energy company. So today we are already an integrated energy company, so we are much more than oil and gas. And lots of people might know us more from a refueling, from a retail station perspective, but as we have been associated to the GREENTECH Festival for a few years now, I think that lots of the followers of this festivals know that Shell is much more and works closely together with startup companies, with partners, and that's possibly what I want to get across as a starting message. We really believe that overall decarbonization and the energy transition is not a strong case. Actually, the basis for succeeding in this is collaboration and partnerships. And for today, I brought, so this is some greetings from my legal department, but for today, because we're focusing a little bit on decarbonization of cities, I brought as an initial inspiration or an initial discussion of Hamburg, and I come to a few examples that we are actively involved in the city of Hamburg to decarbonize a city in a second. But if you look at the current energy system in Hamburg, you see that it needs a lot of energy, and the energy sources and the primary energy carriers are stretched across everything that does exist today. And I think that picture illustrates actually how you can look at a country, how you can look at the globe. The numbers might vary, but fundamentally, the journey which we're all onto to move to renewable energies as the primary energy carrier is still a long way to go, which doesn't mean that we should just stop and feel bad about it. It's the contrary. The land is full of opportunities, considering that the speed of the development of renewable energy technologies and the cost curves of those are extremely exciting. And those that know our company, I get often the question, well, you've been invested in solar 20 years ago. That's correct. The time might have not been right, but we believe the time now is absolutely right. The cost curves, it's a competitive way to produce energy compared to the fossil products, which I think we all work hard for reducing the dependency on that. But as a starting point to decarbonize cities, there is quite a complex picture, and we need to tackle the application side and obviously the supply side in parallel. Just to illustrate, and I'm sure you can't read everything, but to illustrate the point that I made earlier, that over the last few years, we have invested across the range of different new energy technologies across the globe. In Germany, very famous as well at this festival, present colleagues from Sonnen, innovative battery storage for households, but as well lots of other investments across the globe where we see technology transfer into different markets over time. To come back to the example of Hamburg, because I like to talk about to become one of the largest hydrogen hubs at least in Germany. And the reason why Shell is involved and why we believe that is a good project is simply that Hamburg as a city is one of the densest industry areas in Germany, and decarbonization through hydrogen is actually quite a good starting point, as you will find very, very different in many applications. So from a Shell perspective, if I summarize building blocks we see as essential from a decarbonization of cities perspective, it starts with the mobility, and different cities have different strategies, how to reduce traffic on roads, generally how to improve the quality and the availability of public transport, but overall the energy that is needed for that transportation system. We, from a Shell perspective, strongly believe in electricity, so charging infrastructure, but as well, as I said and showed earlier, the hydrogen aspects. The broader logistics, so more the transportation of goods, we have a belief that the application will decide on the energy carrier. So again, the positioning of electricity versus hydrogen is something to consider individually per city. I touched on offers that we are pushing forward with in terms of homes or larger buildings, so combination of decentralized production of renewable energy, and then specific storage options, and those could be batteries, those could be something else. And to close the loop back to the hydrogen projects, where one of the fundamental elements for making hydrogen a successful decarbonization path for a city is really to look after supply but demand at the same time. And as I said, Hamburg with industries is a fantastic place to work together with our industry customers to help them decarbonize their assets and their production facilities by providing new energies like for example in the Hamburg case, hydrogen. So my plea really to all of us, and I will end on that note because I started on that note, it is essential that we work together. No individual company, no individual person can really stem and successfully transform the energy system. So collaboration for us is king. Super important to take customers along. As industries, we need to work together. But, and that is a small but, because I see substantial willingness and really strong commitment by policymakers, and we heard it in the previous discussion, countries take a real look into their energy systems with a belief of transforming it into a net zero emissions world. So if we can all agree that the collaboration element and the willingness to develop together a new energy system with Shell, you will find a partner not only willing to talk, but as well willing to go into action to really reduce CO2 and therefore achieve the agreements that the Paris Agreement has been laid out. So thank you for that and looking forward to the discussion.
Hello, everybody. I'm super excited to be here. Timo Silber. I'm running the consumer business of Embw, including our electromobility business. And I'm super excited because it's the first time after 1.5 years on a stage. So pardon me, I'm not sure if I still can do it. I need a little bit more training, probably. But equally, super excited because I think sustainability is something which really comes from the bottom of our heart and also from the bottom of my heart. I'm a father of 4 kids. They are each ranging between 4 and 11. And I'm super happy that sustainability becomes a real important topic for us because every day I think like we need to enable them to have a great experience on this planet. And so that keeps us very honest, and I think that keeps me very honest on a day-to-day. And I want to talk a little bit about EMBW and how we want to enable customers to become sustainable by what we call a sustainable energy ecosystem. And let me go back a couple of years. Some 4 years ago, we were an energy company. We were delivering electricity to customers, some 3.5 million customers, and that was it. And we decided we need to change that. We need to become somebody who enables customers to become sustainable. And we created for us this word, which is an internal way we call it. We call it the energy ecosystem, which we want customers to become sustainable. And there was a fundamental belief, which I personally is, I believe if you want to make customers sustainable, and if you want to make sustainability a mass adoption, it needs to be a fun thing. It needs to be something which is enjoyable. You can't become sustainable by telling somebody we don't want you to do this. So what we did is we said we need to create a service package and a world of energy which is enjoying customers to use. And there were 3 pillars we started with. The easy part was, you sell CO2 neutral energy to customers. So that's the easy part. You can do that straight away, and then you get your acquisition, and you just sell CO2 neutral energy. The second part, more complicated for us, was we want to enable customers to produce, sell, and store their own energy. And in the meantime, in these 3 years, we have become Germany's largest home storage provider for PV and home storage systems. And the cool thing about it is we see an incredible demand in that space. I mean, every single year, our numbers of customers in this space and the installations are doubling. We're really struggling in setting up our production because we produce these batteries on our own. Well, obviously not the cells, but we mount the batteries and produce the casing and everything and the design. But we are really struggling in fulfilling that demand because what we see is the whole concept that people sort of like produce their own energy, and then they use it, is a great thing for them. They love it. They love the autonomy, and they love this feeling of sustainability. We then extended that lately into something we called sun-based charging for EV cars. So we said, if you've got a solar panel, what about if your car is only getting charged when the sun shines? And we have an intelligent energy management system, which basically then rates your wall box depending on how much energy you produce. So what happened was we have an attachment rate of about 80%. 80% of all the customers which are buying these energy systems, these batteries, they also acquire the service of sun-based charging. And most of them don't have an electric car. But an amazing number of people, they are buying the electric car afterwards because they think it's a great service and they love the idea of saying, well, if I can produce my own energy, if I have an intelligent way of getting that into my car, I need an electric car. So what we see is that that service of charging is actually enabling the purchase of the car. And that's why we call it the ecosystem, because one thing comes to the other by enabling sustainability. And the third element in that ecosystem we then started off is, also a couple of years ago, we think we need to enable mobility. We need to enable customers to drive electric cars, and particularly these ones who don't have a rooftop. Because, being honest, we only have some 14 million people having a house in Germany with a rooftop solar, but the rest also needs to be able to have an electric car. And that was the start where we started what we call the Embw Hypernet. The Embw Hypernet is today Germany's biggest, largest high-performance charging network. We're very proud that since quite a long number of time, since last year, this network is even larger than the one of the guys from California. So it is on every third motorway, we have been building high-performance chargers, which means you can charge every 80 kilometers on a 300 kilowatt charge point your electric car. But we also then, and I think that's the important thing, we also then looked at, well, but that's not enough. What about the customers and the people who live in the city, who don't have a wall box because they can't build a wall box into their garage or their street parkers or whatever? So then we came to the conclusion, again, on this ecosystem thing. We said, well, we need to integrate the service of energy and charging into the daily way people behave and people act. And when we looked at numbers, we came up and said, well, out of this 43 million cars in Germany, around about 29 million show up once a week at a retail store. That can be a DIY store, that can be a grocery, whatever. So what we started then was, we were the first to start, we built large high-performance charging points. And these are up to 300 kilowatts charge points with a couple of megawatts power rating on the network side, on the parking lot of retailers, because the cars are there. And the idea is, we believe, whilst you buy your spaghetti, you charge 300 kilometers. And that takes you through a whole week. So suddenly, this charging thing integrates into your daily life. And we step away from a very German discussion of, yeah, it takes ages to charge, and you need to drive, you need to find something. You say, no, it's a different way. You go shopping, and while you shop, you charge the car. And it's a simple byproduct, and it doesn't take you any minute because you're there anyway. You simply plug the car, it takes you 1 second with your card, you swipe your card or you swipe your mobile, and that's it. And when you come back, you've got enough energy for at least a week, probably rather 2 weeks, because 300 kilometers is nothing we usually drive within 1 week. And this was the start of what we call the suburban or urban charging, whereby we are building sites all around Germany right now on this urban and suburban charging infrastructure. So today, we have about, in that context, 650 sites live. We have 200 sites which we are continuously building. And to give you an idea, by the end of this year, we will have 1,000 sites, and we're looking into 2,500 sites by 25, which is more than the usual filling stations in Germany. You find, if you look at the large branch filling stations, they are on 2,000 something. So we want more of these sites than you have typically filling stations from the core brands. And these sites are always located where the customers go anyway. And the great thing about it, what we realized is, when we look at the rating, and that's what we're very proud of, we recently got rewarded as being the best charging network from Autobild in Germany. We got rewarded from Connect to be the best German-wide charging network. And we've got a couple of rewards of being by far, by quite a distance, the largest high-speed charging network. We also then acquired Austria, so we also have running the largest charging network in Austria. And we're thinking about further expansion because we believe we need to be there where the customer goes. If the customer goes to other countries, we need to ensure that his energy ecosystem works, because it's our job to make this a great experience. And that's what we call the ecosystem. And lately we've put something on top of that to give an idea how we think about this ecosystem. We thought, well, wouldn't it be great if the customers who have a rooftop solar and have an electric car, they can charge their home-produced energy on the public charge points. And that's what we call the charging cloud. So you produce your energy because the sun is shining at home, and you can charge it while you're shopping at DM. And that is the way how we look at that ecosystem. And we think this only works if it is a great experience. And a great experience means it needs to be flawless, it needs to be everywhere available, it needs to be transparent in pricing. So we were the first to integrate a single price around the whole of Europe. And that drives sustainability, because coming back to the final conclusion, I think sustainability only works in a mass adoption if the customer loves it. Thank you.
Thank you, Timo. Case, coming with me? Done. Welcome back on stage. And we have our two guests on the screen as well. Nikola is with us and Jens. Hi, great to have you here and thank you for your keynotes. Let's get to the questions. And we had difficulties with Slido. So if you want to participate, if you want to send in questions, please use the Slido code 93078. From home, where you want to watch, where you're watching us, just go on slido.com and then 93078, and then we'll receive your questions. I'll receive your questions, and I can forward them to the panel. Timo, first question directly to you, and well, regarding your keynote, you just spoke about the network of being able to charge e-cars, e-mobility, and in your words, it sounds really, really comfortable and easy. But Germany is, well, that's probably the opinion of everyone around, really slow when it comes to a charging network. And there's the hassle with, can I use an app? Do I have to need my credit card? Can I use Apple Pay? Do I have to be registered at the charging stations? Why?
Well, I would say in the first place, because everybody who says that is not driving an electric car. Because it's super simple. I mean, if I look at the way, I have a single app, I can charge at more than 95% of the entire infrastructure in Germany. Take Mobility Plus, which is our charging network. We basically bring all the charge points together, so you have one single price, and regardless where you are, it doesn't make on the motorway, in Austria, in Switzerland, in Italy, it's always the same price, exactly per the kilowatt hour. And it's much simpler than gasoline, because I mean, gasoline on the motorway is 20 cents more than it is next to the motorway. It changes every day.
Good point.
It is super simple, but in Germany we're very slow in adopting new technologies and doing things differently, and that's why we also have such fears of doing it.
Actually, the fear is really big. Case, do you drive an electric car?
I drive an electric German car, full electric.
Okay.
I agree with Timo anyway.
That would have been my question. Is it hassle-free, or are you annoyed by it?
It's hassle-free, and we deliver also our buildings fully with chargers. In the Netherlands, we started with that. So you can charge always when you're on the office. And the Netherlands is pretty small, so it's a little bit easier. I think in 6 months one time I did 5 hours over 100 kilometers because there was no charging station. That happens, but it's still fun. He talked about fun and sustainability. It's fun to drive an electric car. You have to think a little bit more, but it's good.
All right. Yeah. We actually have a question from the audience towards Jens. And Katharina is asking, what is Shell doing in terms of national policy intervention, as you stated this as an essential activity?
I mean, look, I think that it's not only us, but I think as a broader community, we have our discussions with the policymakers to highlight some of the needs we have as an industry, but as well to concretely make proposals how this can change. So one of the examples, which is an essential element currently being discussed, is clearly the electricity levies when you want to produce green hydrogen. So an essential element to make sure that you get the electricity at the electricity costs to convert it to green hydrogen. So it's only one example. I think the other example, we talk a lot about, not only with policymakers, but as well with industry colleagues, we need to drive standardization in some of the areas. So to ensure that the customer, and I liked what I heard earlier, so we can't confuse the customer by having too many different standards. Because it needs to be easy for the consumer at the end of the day to make that shift from what people might love today to something that they might love even more in the future.
So standardization is a good point, a good way forward. Question to Nikola. What's the role of corporates in facilitating the shift to renewable electricity and carbon neutrality?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, corporates have a huge role to play. I mean, some of the fantastic examples of also consortiums which invest in PPAs. So now this Dutch consortium that we've invested in, only together do we have the critical mass to invest in several PPAs. Or what Amazon is doing by trying to increase the use of renewable electricity by encouraging partnership in renewable electricity. We were the first to invest in Poland in a virtual PPA in a coal-based industry, and we were also the first to invest in solar energy in the Gulf region. I think, as a corporation, making those first steps, making a commitment for a long-term arrangement is not always easy. You have to convince CEO and CFO to enter a 10, 15-year agreement with an uncertain financial payback. But if you have that commitment and you know that over time you want to ensure that you have 100% renewable coverage. As a company, if you commit to that, others will follow.
That's actually a good bridge to case. Thank you, Nikola, for the answer. Speaking about financing, the European Green Deal is a big thing, and companies feel really intimidated by the size of the regulations and the aims and the goals that they have to achieve. But what many do not know, that there is actually money for it. There is a huge budget behind it. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, and Nikola, I think you're also involved with your Dutch organization and with Mr. Randola, who is also helping us there. Is that the fact is there is about 100 billion already available for all European countries to, let's say, renovate or come with plans to renovate buildings or to do other things in energy. And I think it's even more than 100 billion. And what you see, those plans have been these days being sent to Brussels. And Diederik Samson, I think, is also in this GreenTech Festival. You have to ask him the same question because you just have to ask him to get more. He is on the right hand of Mr. Timmermans. But we can do so much with that money to change, let's say, the environment and do the transition by the help of the European Union and that subsidy there is there, that can also be done by corporates. So, for instance, with Signify, we now we joined together to go to the Dutch state to say, guys, you have 50% of your buildings is not even yet label C. Label C means that if that remains like that the next 1.5 year, from on the 1st of January in 2023, you may not even work there anymore, which is quite a thing. So that even the government is even still thinking, do I have to get that subsidy to get my offices and my workspaces in the right sustainable way? So there is still so much to learn for everybody, and there is money available. So just take a look on the websites of the EU, and you easily find it, and try to find the people who are involved, and let's make together that next step. It's an easy one almost to do.
Sounds easy.
It sounds easy.
We have a question to Timo from the audience. Where is it? There it is. Ronja asking, is EnBW planning to build charging infrastructure in rural areas, and what would be the timeline for it?
So the good answer is we're not only planning it, we're already doing it. So we started off in Baden-Württemberg with the first charge point. We have done 15 cities. So what we plan is we plan every city above 50,000 inhabitants. We plan to build huge charging sites with roof. Well, roofs are sometimes a little bit of a challenge in a city because of some regulations, but whenever we can, we build them with roof. And we're planning to do that all around Germany. And on top, since we are also building with the retailers, wherever the retailers are, we build the charge hubs, and they are spread around the whole entire Germany. So we go along with our partners. And the idea is to we have a complete coverage of the entire footprint in Germany, yes.
Timeline?
Well, we are having some 600, as I mentioned, we have 600 sites now. We are increasing that to about 1,000 sites by the end of this year, to around 2,500 sites by the end of 25. I would say rather 23, but my CFO is getting a heart attack when I say that. But that's about the timeline. So that means it's happening very, very, very quickly.
All right. I hope this answers your question, Ronja. I have another question to Jens. You stress the need for collaboration, and your strategy is very customer-centric. So who actually needs to start?
Can you repeat the last sentence as we're breaking the line?
Sorry, you stress the need for collaboration, and your strategy is very customer-centric. Who needs to start?
I mean, I just can repeat what we just heard. I think this all has started. So we see customers changing to battery electric vehicles. They have a need today. We see households investing, and they need different type of energies. So I think from my perspective, from a Shell perspective, all this is in motion. I think the question behind the question could well be, how can we accelerate? And I think we just learned there is money available. Acceleration clearly is one of the mechanisms is to get the government support, and we see quite a lot of this. The other way to accelerate also is that we are a little bit braver in terms of our own let's say actions, right? So do we as consumers actually are willing to change? And I think that combination is what we try to foster, possibly talking a little bit more about the industry as a customer, where you often see some longer term investment cycles. For example, if you want to decarbonize the chemical industry or the steel industry, a big topic in German press these days. Also, this will be accelerated by the right collaboration. We see a lot of willingness by companies to really do the next step already now.
Yeah, that's actually what we experienced already all day today, that everybody is willing to do so. And then, well, this is the first step you actually have to take. You have to have the will to do change, to work towards a more sustainable way. So that's a good point. We have a question for Kees. Can you compare the cost of tech building with the other building cost? And is it possible to finance all the tech? From Sven. Thank you, Sven.
Yeah, it was the good thing was we had that question 5 years ago when we built the Edge in Amsterdam, and everybody said, "Wow, that's so sustainable. That must cost a fortune." We had a very good tenant, so the corporates, exactly what Nikola said. You need the corporates to help you there. So that was Deloitte, and the building itself was only at that time 10% more expensive, which is it expensive? No, it's not that much, because the good thing in that 10% you earn back in about 15 years was the financial case behind it. We are now in the 6th year of the building, and it will be, let's say, earned back in 8 years. So in 2 years' time, we're even going to gain money from the low and the energy efficiency of the building. It was the first building which was also the Internet of Things building, so everything was connected, and that's what we currently do too. And very simple, if you change your building into a technology building with a platform behind it, and if you know that rent prices are, rent price in Berlin are, what is it, 400, 500 euros a square meter, to have a platform costs you 5-6 euros. So in total, is that only 1%. But you gain it back. We can even guarantee that your energy efficiency is going down by 20-25% if you add technology to your building. So if you make that calculation, which has been done now by a lot of companies, it's a no-brainer.
So at first you have to invest a little bit more, but you get it.
You get it back, and you have to see it over a longer term. But it's also with LED lights, and it's also with if you place a charger or a battery or something, it comes back always.
Final question to Nikola, and we only have 1 minute left, Nikola, so maybe a quick answer on this one. What's the importance of embedding energy use and customer carbon footprint in companies' value propositions?
Yeah, I think only by embedding carbon can you really connect company strategy, business decision making with moving the needle on sustainability. So I think carbon pricing and embedding it in finances, integrated reporting is the way of the future.
All right. Thank you very much to the panel. That's on point. We have a couple of seconds left now. Big thank you to Nikola Kim. Big thank you to Jens Müller-Belau, Timo Zillober, and Kees van der Spek. Big round of applause.
Thank you.